When a little girl asked a billionaire to be her dad, I never expected his heartbreaking response. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the playground. Laughter echoed, but not from me. My heart pounded, each beat a hollow reminder of what was missing. I watched from the sidelines, trembling hands wrapped around the cold metal of the swing. Her name was Lily. The way her golden curls bounced as she ran toward the tallest man I'd ever seen was magical. He stood there, pristine in his tailored suit, the light glinting off his sleek watch. I could tell he was a millionaire not just by his clothes, but by the way the world seemed to part around him. Children giggled, drawn to him like moths to a flame. I felt a twist in my stomach. A strange mix of envy and hope fluttered inside me. Lily approached him, her small figure dwarfed by his stature. I watched in disbelief as she reached up, tiny fingers brushing against his perfectly sculpted cheek. "Will you be my dad?" she asked, her voice sweet yet cracking under the weight of the question. Time stopped. The silence hung thick. I bit my lip. My heart dropped. Could she feel my desperation? My fleeting breath echoed only in my ears, drowning out the hum of the surrounding kids. I held my own breath, waiting for the billionaire's response, the world narrowing to just the two of them. He stared at her, eyes narrowing, a storm brewing in his expression. The party atmosphere shifted, children's smiles fading into confusion. He shook his head slowly, a gentle gesture made cruel by the swift rejection. "I can't," he replied, voice like ice. My chest tightened. Lily's shoulders drooped, her little world crashing around her. My heart broke for her, a sharp, jagged pain. She looked up at him, confusion swimming in her eyes, as if searching for pity or understanding. That had to hurt. Couldn't he see the innocence of her plea? Tears filled my eyes. Why did it feel like he was rejecting me too? The crowd around us whispered, a monstrous wave of judgment and disappointment crashing down. I stepped back, away from their stares. I felt trapped in a cage of my own emotions, suffocating in the chaos. And then, in the thick of the silence that followed his refusal, something unexpected happened. The billionaire lowered himself to her level. "Maybe someday," he murmured. But his eyes said differently. A promise for a future that would never come. I couldn't move. I was frozen, caught between the realm of hope and despair. I hated him for that moment, but a part of me couldn't help but feel drawn to the tension, the mystery of who he was. Who would turn away a child's love? That day, I realized life wasn't just about what you had, but who you had. As I watched Lily walk away, head hung low, a question lingered in the air. What truth lay hidden behind his icy facade? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The sun continued its descent, casting a deeper shade of melancholy over the playground. I stood there, an unwilling spectator to the unfolding drama, my heart still heavy with the weight of Lily's disappointment. Each swing creaked under the embers of laughter that once ignited the playground, now dulled by the reality of shattered dreams. I felt lost, swept away in a tide of sorrow that clung to me like a thick fog. Lily walked away from the scene, her tiny feet dragging in the sand. I wanted to reach out, to scoop her up and carry her away from the cruelness of the moment. But I didn't. Instead, I lingered behind, weighed down by my own feelings of inadequacy. I could see her searching for comfort, scanning the area for her mother, perhaps, or a friendly face, only to find nothing but the degrading whispers that echoed around us. As the other children resumed their games oblivious to the heartache woven into the fabric of this day, I felt my chest tighten with desperation. I had come to that playground to escape the suffocating loneliness of my own reality, but now I was entwined in hers. The moment Lily's hand brushed against the billionaire's cheek replayed in my mind like a haunting melody, stirring something deep within me. Could it be that he held his own scars? Perhaps he, too, was haunted by choices and losses I couldn't begin to fathom. I stepped closer, drawn by curiosity yet anchored back by fear. What secret could lie behind those cold eyes? Are you okay? A quiet voice pulled me from my thoughts. It was an elderly woman, her face lined with compassion, weathered hands resting on the chain of the swing beside me. For a moment, it felt as if she saw right through me. Kids can be so brutally honest. They ask for what they want without filters. I don't understand how he could say no. How could he? My voice cracked, betraying the depth of my frustration. I looked back at Lily, now sitting on a bench, head bowed, her golden curls obscuring her face. The woman sat down, her eyes never leaving Lily. Sometimes, people carry burdens that are heavier than we can see. It might not be about her, but about him. There are wounds we all have, even those who seem untouchable. Her words wrapped around me like a warm blanket, offering a small measure of solace that I wanted to know more. Why did she think he carried such burdens? But she just wanted love. How could he refuse that? A soft sigh left her lips. Love isn't a commodity to be exchanged, my dear. It's messy, complicated, and not everyone knows how to embrace it. She paused, glancing at the billionaire, now talking animatedly to a group of adults nearby. Perhaps he is afraid of what being a father might mean. Some fears run deep. Unexpected warmth filled my heart as her words sank in. There was an untold story behind his cool exterior, a narrative of pain tangled in his refusal. And yet, it didn't assuage my anger. Lily deserved better. Just then, I noticed movements at the edge of the playground. A man approached, wearing a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. He was disheveled, yet there was an earnestness in his step. As he drew nearer, my heart leapt. He knelt by Lily, touching her shoulder gently, his demeanor protective. My fists clenched, ready to leap to her defense if needed, but he bent low, whispering something to her, a tender exchange illuminating the sudden darkness around us. She looked up, her face momentarily softening as a small smile broke through her sadness. This stranger had managed to reach her in a moment where others had failed. The glimmer of hope blossomed, a reminder that kindness still existed in the face of rejection. Before I could breathe a sigh of relief, the billionaire's eyes drifted toward the scene, narrowing as he observed their interaction. A flicker of something, jealousy? Anger? It was hard to tell, but it unleashed a surge of confusion within me. I wasn't expecting to see that from him. Then it happened. The man stood, locking eyes with the billionaire. A silent confrontation sparked between them. My heart raced. What was about to unfold? The tension caught in my throat. Who is that? I asked the elderly woman, but she simply shook her head, her face falling into a mask of uncertainty. Silence stretched, charged with unanswered questions, both painful and poignant. I felt the weight of the atmosphere shift around me, coiling into an unexpected intensity. Do you know him? I pleaded for an answer, but the woman's gaze remained fixed ahead, and there, just moments away from the collision of pasts and futures, the world held its breath, ready to unravel more truths hidden beneath layers of heartache and unsaid moments. The playground seemed to fade into a blur as my focus narrowed on the two men, their silent exchange brimming with an intensity that rippled through the cool evening air. My heart pulsed with anticipation, caught between the tangled emotions that swirled around Lily, the ignoble billionaire, and this enigmatic stranger who had dared to step into a moment meant for healing. Lily, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing, continued to look up at the man, her eyes brightening as she responded to whatever warmth had wrapped around her momentarily. The crack in the massive wall of hurt surrounding her, the tiny fragments of joy shone brighter than the fading sun. I couldn't let that light be snuffed out. Please just be a good man, I whispered under my breath, almost pleading. I understood how fragile happiness could be. I had seen it crumble too many times in my own life, like sandcastles before an inevitable tide. The tension between the billionaire and the man thickened. The billionaire ran a hand through his hair, a sign of agitation. It felt as if a battle of worlds had begun, with Lily sitting unknowingly in the crossfire, her innocence a haunting reminder of what lay at stake. "Who are you?" The billionaire finally spoke, voice low but edged with authority, looming like a shadow ready to envelop the warmth I had just witnessed. The stranger squared his shoulders, an act of defiance against the weight of contempt. "Just someone who cares," he answered, his voice steady though there was an underlying tremor that suggested he felt a great deal at risk. "I don't need your pity, nor do I need some man-child playing hero," the billionaire replied sharply. His words were laced with disdain, a stark contrast to the tender moment he had just witnessed between Lily and this newcomer. The tension thrummed louder, and I felt compelled to intervene. This disagreement wasn't just about them, it was about Lily, her heart, and the choices made by those around her. "Stop," I called out, stepping forward, my resolve stronger than the throbbing doubt in my chest. "This is not a competition." Both men turned to me, their expressions a mix of surprise and irritation. "And who are you to decide what's best for her?" The billionaire snapped, but his voice lacked the unyielding power it had held moments before. "I'm someone who cares about this little girl," I replied, my voice firmer than I felt. "She deserves compassion, not this whatever this is." I nodded toward the tension between them. "You both have your demons, but make no mistake, she is not one of them. She needs kindness, not conflict." The billionaire scoffed, but his gaze flickered toward Lily, who was still trying to piece together the moment, unaware of the stakes at play. And for the first time, I noticed a shift in his gaze, a subtle falter, as if he were grappling with an inner turmoil that echoed my own. "Stop pretending to care when you don't understand her at all," the stranger interjected. "This isn't just about you. You're clouded by something you can't even admit." The billionaire's nostrils flared, and for a fleeting moment, I saw the vulnerabilities behind his facade. "You think you know me? You don't know the first thing about my life." Lily stood up abruptly, breaking the swirling tension around us. "No. Stop." Her tiny voice pierced the air, crystalline and resolute. I just wanted a dad." The silence that followed was deafening. I felt the world pause as Lily's words wrapped around us like vines, entangling our disparate hearts and forcing us to confront the raw honesty of her longing. My own chest tightened with the weight of her words. She hadn't asked for much. She only sought a connection, a palm to hold and a smile to warm her heart. But the emotions surrounding her were far more complex than she knew. The billionaire's facade cracked slightly, the armor he had worn so resolutely wavering. "I can't be that for you," he breathed, voice hoarse, almost protesting the truth that lay exposed before him. "Why not?" Lily whispered, a tremor in her voice that undid me. I had never seen such pure longing, such honest need. It was a simple question but with a weight that threatened to shatter the carefully constructed walls around all of us. The way she looked at him, vulnerable yet brave, was enough to strum the broken chords within my own heart, and at that moment, I sensed a presence behind me, endless eyes observing as if the universe itself were holding its breath, waiting. Another man, perhaps protective or judgmental, emerged from the shadows. He glanced at the billionaire, who stiffened as dread seized his features. "What are you doing here?" the newcomer demanded, directing his query to the billionaire, but it felt more like an accusation. Surprisingly, the billionaire turned to me, the storm in his eyes softening for a heartbeat. "What if I could? What if you could?" I echoed, emotions flickering like the final rays of sun disappearing beyond the horizon. Hope, confusion, desire, and dread swirled around like a tempest. I could feel my heart thrumming against the weight of unspoken possibilities. Would he, or would he not? In that moment, we stood on the precipice of what could change Lily's world, as well as our own. And as the sun dipped beneath the horizon, casting long shadows over the playground, the fabric of our fates began to weave into something unforeseen, leaving me breathless and anticipating the tremors of what was yet to come. Lily's voice resonated through the dusky air, her innocent plea puncturing the tension like a pin to a balloon. We stood, frozen in that moment, every heartbeat echoing the fragility of what was unfolding. The playground was a distant memory, reduced to a backdrop to this dramatic confrontation. The billionaire seemed to grapple with her words as if they held a power and gravity beyond his understanding. He stammered, palming his forehead as waves of emotion surged through him. It was a rare display. Each crack in his armor felt monumental, stripping away the layers of wealth and bravado to expose the tumult beneath. Why not? Lily repeated, her small-framed figure somehow commanding the attention of two men caught in their own emotional storm, a testament to the belief of a child in the goodness that should exist in the world. Just then, the newcomer, tall, sharp-featured, bearing an unmistakable air of authority, stepped closer to the billionaire, his voice low and laced with concern. You can't just toy with her like this, James. She's not a consolation prize or a way to ease your guilt. Everyone turned to him, and the intensity of their gazes shifted the atmosphere. The billionaire's face hardened, the flicker of vulnerability extinguished as defensiveness surged back. You don't know anything about the choices I've had to make, he shot back, and I could see the cold resolve return to his demeanor. I can't afford to be someone's father, someone's savior. Then why are you here? The stranger challenged, frustration lacing his words. You can't keep running away, James. You hurt people. Their exchange was layered with history, a complex web of emotions I was not privy to but which now loomed over this small haven. I could sense the deep chasm between them, one of shared past regrets and unfulfilled promises, emotions bubbling beneath the surface clamoring for oxygen. Lily, oblivious to the underlying tension, shifted her approach. But you're here now. She looked up at the billionaire with wide eyes shimmering in the fading light, hope shimmering amidst despair. You could choose to love me. I just want to be loved. A beat passed, and I felt my heart constrict. Each word she spoke seemed large enough to bridge any divide that lay before us, a simple yearning that underscored the core of human connection. The stranger turned his gaze towards me. I could read the inquiry unsaid, the desire for affirmation that yes, we were each woven into this moment, tied together by the infinite need for validation and connection. For her sake, you owe it to her, don't you think? He said quietly, grounding my tumult with a sense of purpose. Don't you dare make this about me, the billionaire snapped, yet the edge of his voice trembled with a tinge of uncertainty. I didn't ask for any of this. None of this works how you think it does. And love is supposed to carry all the burdens? I whispered, stepping into the fray with a calmness I didn't quite feel. It won't be easy, but she won't heal alone. James flinched, emotions roiling. Behind the layers of his defiance, there lay a trauma waiting to unveil itself. I'd witnessed it countless times, how pain could tether someone to their past, imprisoning them in choices made long ago. It dawned on me then that the real question wasn't if he could love Lily, but if he was willing to allow love to break through his self-imposed chains. I shot a glance at Lily, whose eyes flickered with confusion but glimmered with a childlike hope. Please just give it a chance, she pleaded, her voice trembling slightly now. The atmosphere shifted again, morphing into something charged with potential. Perhaps it was the sheer purity of her wish that momentarily cracked the cold walls of the billionaire's heart. Yet something invisible loomed heavier than the thoughts of $1 million check or the shadows of his past, an acknowledgement that could cradle his broken spirit if only he was brave enough to confront it. But before the silence could stretch on, the shadowed figure next to us, the newcomer, cleared his throat. This needs to stop, he said, casting a glance at James. Right now, this isn't just about you or your struggles. Look at her. She deserves better than a dilapidated version of yourself. The billionaire stiffened, straining against the confines of the moment, even as the truth buried beneath the surface beckoned him. You think I owe her something? He shot back, voice a mix of anger and despair, the veneer cracking further. Another realization struck me. Love could hurt, but love without vulnerability was a paradox that chained you to a past you could not outrun. Another day, another fight, I thought. A growing dread coiled within me. This was leading to any resolution. We were all still mired in our emotional grapples, circling one another like planets trapped in a gravitational pull of our making. Someone has to reach for her, I murmured softly, taking a step forward, hoping to instill a flicker of urgency. Someone has to take that leap of faith. As if listening, James dipped his head, the storm clearly reflected in his eyes as he took a shaky breath. Then, before I could process the potential shift, the new man muttered darkly, "What if you can't? What if she deserves more than a father who doesn't want her?" And just like that, the air shifted again, laden with uncertainty, each syllable reverberating through my heart. I found myself caught between fear and desperate hope, each man, each word, each moment spinning into a culmination that demanded attention. Just then, before a resolution could breathe life into the air, the ringing of a telephone broke through the thick tension, filling the silence with shrill urgency. James whipped out his phone, face paling as he read the screen. "I have to take this," he said abruptly, backing away before turning heel, leaving us in stunned silence. "James." I called, but he was already retreating into the shadows of the playground, the fading light consuming him. And in his absence, the doubts rushed back, threatening to lay waste to the fragile hope that had just ignited. Lily looked up at me, confusion clouding her bright eyes. "Will he come back?" she asked, tone far too innocently pointed. The sudden dread made my heart race. I didn't know. I couldn't know. Just as James had taken a step back, it felt as if we were losing him right at the moment he might need to step forward. All around us, the world continued its relentless march forward, oblivious to the turmoil brewing over a simple request from a little girl asking for a father, and there, perched on the precipice of possibility, I felt the earth tremble beneath me as uncertainty glimmered like a cruel joke. This battle wasn't finished, if anything, it had just begun. The air hung thick with the gravity of James's departure, compressing the moment into a suffocating silence. Lily's innocent question echoed in my mind, adding weight to my own unanswered fears. How could I assure her that everything would be okay when the truth felt so uncertain? "Will he come back?" she repeated, her voice a soft whimper now, the confidence in her earlier plea cracking under the weight of silence that I knelt to meet her gaze, forcing a smile that didn't quite resonate with the turmoil inside me. "I believe he will," I said, hoping my words were more than a desperate attempt to shield her from the truth. "Sometimes, people need a little time to think." Lily nodded, a small gesture that hinted at a soul older than her years. I reached out to smooth her hair, the contact imbued with a tenderness that felt both protective and aching. She deserved someone who would stay, someone who could hold her heartbreak in their hands rather than leave her adrift. But then, that familiar gnawing anxiety returned, mingling with the poignant memories of a childhood spent wrapped in the comforting embrace of a father's love that Lily had yet to experience. She was just a little girl, yet here she was, articulating desires raw enough to pierce through the richest fabric of a boy's dream. The newcomer, Marcus, was still standing nearby, his expression a mix of concern and complexity. "We should get her some ice cream," he suggested, a hopeful attempt to uplift the mood. His eyes lingered on Lily, as if she were the embodiment of innocence worth protecting against the harshness of reality. "Okay," I said, grateful for the distraction. "Let us do that." As we walked towards the small ice cream stand nestled at the edge of the playground, Lily's spirit lightened at the very thought. I felt a twinge of guilt. Here we were, trying to drown sorrows with something sweet when the reality of her situation lay heavily on her frail shoulders. I caught Marcus watching me, the shadows of the unsaid weighing heavily between us. "Did you really mean what you said back there?" he asked, no preamble. "About love? Do you think it can save him?" I thought over my response carefully, the hum of the ice cream machine accompanying background noise. "I think love can free you," I replied, surprised by the conviction that emerged. "But it has to come from a place of honesty. Right now, James is caught in his own fear." "You're probably right," Marcus said. "But does he know that? Is he capable of figuring it out?" The worry etched on his face mimicked my own fears for Lily. Before I could respond, Lily chimed in, her small voice buoyant amid our heavy conversation. "Can I get sprinkles on my ice cream?" she asked eagerly, her face lighting up with childlike enthusiasm. "Of course," I replied, unwilling to let the moment of hope drift away. Moments like these were scarce, and if sprinkles could kindle joy when faced with uncertainty, then so be it. Marcus paid the vendor while Lily bounced on her toes, her excitement infectious, pulling me momentarily from the clutches of dread. As we sat on a nearby bench, laughter soon floated around us, filling air once fraught with tension, yet, as we indulged in the creamy cold delicacies, the gaps left by James's absence remained palpable. Each lick of ice cream was a reminder of the man who was still wrestling with the shadows of his past, and each laugh felt bittersweet, a small victory shadowed by uncertainty. Lily finished her treat and looked up at me, her innocent brown eyes glistening with something beyond sugar-induced glee. "Do you think he'll pick me up to take me home one day?" she asked, her voice softening with hope. The question gripped my heart, a tender thread pulling me toward her truth. "I want to believe that," I said, even though insecurities crept in, but I wouldn't let them overshadow her childlike belief. "He might just need to know how special you are. Like how you're special too," she offered, reaching out to squeeze my hand. "Thank you, Lily," I responded, trying to hold back the swell of tears that threatened to spill over at her naive wisdom. But then, as if the universe had chosen to play its cruel hand, my phone buzzed violently in my pocket, sending a jolt through me. When I checked the screen, my heart sank. It was from James. Urgently, I opened the message. "I need to talk. Meeting at the estate. Don't take Lily with you." Marcus caught the look of bewilderment on my face. "What is it?" he asked, concern deepening in his voice. "It's James," I said, battling a whirlpool of emotions. "He wants to meet without Lily. Do you think it's good news?" His fingers tightened around his ice cream cup, mirroring my own anxiety. "There's only one way to find out," I said, trying to remain calm, though the weight of his words draped over me like a shroud. With the setting sun casting long shadows, I stood, feeling the world around me tilt on its axis. "I have to go." Lily's attention shifted between us, her delight evaporating, sensing the sudden shift in the air. "Can I come?" she asked, but I turned my gaze away, fearful of any implication that would lead to hope being crushed. "Not this time," I replied softly, with conviction as my heart broke for her again. As I left the bench, promising myself it was only a discussion, I felt like a character woven in a narrative I couldn't command. The looming uncertainty gnawed at my insides like an insatiable creature. The stakes were too high. One conversation could alter everything I wished to protect. That I was heading back to the heart of chaotic emotional turmoil, and as I braced myself for whatever awaited at the estate, I couldn't shake the feeling that this moment would change our lives forever. And as I stole one last glance at Lily, small and adorably unaware of the storm brewing on the horizon, a flickering ember of dread ignited within me, reaching for a resolution that remained stubbornly out of grasp. The estate loomed ahead, an opulent structure that felt like a fortress from which I had witnessed James retreating, leaving behind ghosts of laughter and longing. The ornate gates swung open at my approach, yet my heart was suffocated by the weight of what awaited within. Each step echoed louder than the last in my mind, a countdown to an uncertain fate. Inside, the grand hall was lit with a golden hue from the chandeliers, casting shadows that danced against the patterned marble floor. But even the beauty of the place felt hollow today, as if it were merely a shell hiding the turmoil of its owner. I hesitated at the door of the study, the room where decisions were made and lives pivoted forever. When I finally entered, I found James standing by the massive window, gazing out at the vast expanse of the garden that seemed vibrant and alive, a stark contrast to the storm brewing within him. I could sense the turmoil radiating from his posture, those rigid shoulders honed into something more than just a man overwhelmed. "Thank you for coming," he said, his voice a low rumble that barely masked the urgency behind it. He turned slowly, as if the mere act was a monumental chore, and met my gaze. The vulnerability in his eyes nearly broke me. It was that of a man standing on the precipice, ready to either leap or lean back into the safety of his shadows. "Lily, she thinks," I began, but the words twisted in my throat, caught between the empathy I felt for James and the protective instinct surging within me for the little girl who believed her father was still out there. James raised a hand, cutting through my hesitation. "I know," he replied, his expression shifting to something tragic and resigned, like a clock counting down to a bitter hour. "That's part of why I need to talk to you." I was torn, a battle of instinct and reason waging within. "What is it, James? Is everything all right?" My voice cracked, the gravity of the situation drawing out emotions I had fought to keep buried. That he sighed, raking fingers through his tousled hair, seemingly distressed by the weight of his own thoughts. I reached out to someone. The confession hung in the air like a fragile bird, poised to fly away should I express the slightest doubt. To who? I pressed, feeling the tension tighten around us. James, if this is about Lily, it's not about Lily, he interrupted sharply, a flash of defensiveness sparking in his eyes. It's about me. The honesty in his voice was jarring, as he stepped closer, a man laying his soul bare. I've been a coward. I thought isolating myself would keep her safe. The truth is, I never got over the guilt. I convinced myself that running from my problems would protect her from the chaos of my world, but I've realized it only pushes her away. His words struck home, unearthing the pain buried deep within. It's not too late for you, James. You're still her father. I can't be the man she deserves if I keep pretending nothing's wrong, he replied, pain etched into every syllable. I have to face this. I need to break free of the shadows. I need to overcome the demons that walk with me. I marveled at his struggle. The flicker of resolve igniting behind those anguished eyes gave me a thread of hope. So what are you saying? You can do this. He shook his head slowly, stumbling on the weight of his own truth. I want to be there for her. But to do that, I need to confront the very thing I've been avoiding: the family business, the pressure, everything that's been controlling my life for so long. And the fear that I might not return to being the father she deserves. The admission left us in a heavy silence, one soul bared for another to judge. I could feel the air crackle with unspoken fears as my heart raced in anticipation of the next words from his trembling lips. Are you willing to let her come into my life again? He finally asked, the question hanging between us like a taut rope ready to snap at any moment. Will you help me show her that I can be there? Emotion flooded my senses. I saw the man before me stripped of pretense, a man desperately wanting to fight for the love of a daughter he had distanced himself from, a second chance hanging precariously in the balance. Of course, I whispered, overwhelmed by the sincerity in his plea. But just as relief began to trickle in, my phone buzzed again in my pocket. The ominous tone shattered the moment, and I pulled it out swiftly, anxiety swallowing my stomach. The message was from Marcus. You need to come back. It's urgent. I think we've been followed. An icy flush cascaded through me as dread bubbled up, a sense of impending doom washing over the burgeoning hope that had started to grow within me. What do you mean? I typed back, urgency clawing at the pit of my stomach. James's gaze locked onto mine, a new fear rising between us. What's wrong? He asked, raking the air with his own sense of urgency. It's Marcus. He says we've been followed. The very notion sent adrenaline pumping through my veins, amplifying the perils of our conversation even further. Tension thickened in the room, the heartbeat of uncertainty pulsing against the walls. Did this mean that our newfound hope was at risk? What kind of threat loomed over us, casting yet another shadow across our fragile plans? The conflict continued to escalate, pressing down upon us in that expansive room filled with memories, and as we stood there, facing each other, time paused, the weight of the moment holding a myriad of possible outcomes: the start of something profound or the descent into chaos. Our breaths mingled in the charged silence as reality closed in, and with a shared understanding, we both knew we were standing on the edge of a precipice that could change everything. The air crackled with tension, a standoff between fractured hope and impending dread. James's dark gaze bore into mine, and I was acutely aware of the storm brewing both outside the estate and within the fragile space we occupied. What do you mean followed? His voice lowered to a whisper, and the urgency morphed into a palpable fear that brimmed in the room. I struggled to find an answer, grappling with the gnawing worry that trapped me like a fly in a web. I don't know, I offered, my tone shaking as uncertainty wove through my words. Marcus was vague, but if he's right. The implication hung between us like a pendulum, swinging dangerously toward a reality neither of us wanted to confront. James instinctively moved closer, the fierce beating of my heart echoed in this shared space. The warmth radiating off him felt like protection against the unknown that loomed outside shared burdens. We can't let anything happen to Lily, he murmured, his voice a lifeline, even as shadows threatened to consume him whole. That I nodded, feeling the weight of my promise to him solidify within my chest, a vow to help him reforge the connection with his daughter, to stand alongside him as he faced his demons. Yet that promise morphed into a double-edged sword as waves of panic flickered across his face. "I need to get to her," he said suddenly, the desperation sharpening his features into something heart-wrenching. "She has to be safe." At that moment, I understood the heart of his turmoil. Yes, he was a billionaire, a man accustomed to power and control, but beneath the armor was a father, terrified of failing the child who was daring enough to love him unconditionally. "Where is she right now?" I asked, instinctively shifting into protective mode, my maternal instincts igniting. "She's with my mother. I trust her, but I didn't want." James's voice faltered, and I could see him grappling with the enormity of the situation. "Then we need to go," I urged. The urgency of the moment propelled me into action, latching onto the flicker of determination sparking in his eyes. As if sensing that our shared resolve might ignite something bright enough to dispel the encroaching darkness, he nodded, the indecisiveness that had marked him earlier beginning to lift. We made our way down the polished hall, each step echoing a newfound purpose that felt almost surreal. For a moment, the shadows receded, and in their place, hope flickered like a candle amid the dark, but as we approached the front door, our moment of clarity shattered when my phone buzzed again. I fumbled to pull it out, dread creeping back into my veins as I squinted at the screen. It was another message from Marcus. "Lily isn't safe. Someone's watching your every move." My heart sank, and I shot a panicked look at James. "We can't go yet," I said, my voice losing its earlier strength. "If they're watching us, we have to be careful." "What do you propose?" he asked, the earlier flame of determination mixing with resignation. "Just sit around waiting for nothing?" "No, but maybe we can find another way to get to her without alerting anyone," I insisted, anxiety clawing at my insides. "There has to be a back exit or an alternate route." Behind those fierce eyes, James's mind raced, but I could see he was battling the idea of inaction. "Fine," he said, the resolve returning, the fight igniting again. "Show me. We'll find a way." As we retraced our steps, I led James through the winding corridors that led to a service entrance rarely used, the faint smell of dust and neglect greeting us. With each step, I could feel the curtain of tension tightening, but at the same time, I sensed a new thread of energy woven into us, igniting something powerful and fragile within the storm of uncertainty. Reaching the door, I pushed against its weight, and it creaked open to reveal the world outside, as luminous as it was foreboding. "Let us find her," James said, determination etched into every line of his face, breathing life into the vulnerability we both felt just moments ago. As we stepped out, a sense of urgency hung in the air, a promise unfulfilled, a future undetermined, and the shadows of unknown threats lurking just beyond our sight. Before we could even take a breath of freedom, the sound of a car engine revving gripped the silence. I turned to see a black vehicle pulling up the drive, ominous and sleek against the grandeur of the estate. My stomach knotted as the driver's side door swung open, and a figure emerged, familiar yet terrifying. "James," I whispered, fear creeping into my voice. My heart raced, unsure whether to take a step back into safety or to stand our ground. He turned to see the man, his expression twisting from confusion to recognition. "No, it can't be." As the figure walked closer, a dreadful realization dawned. This was not just any enforcer from the family business. This was someone close to James, someone grounded in secrets dark enough to topple empires, the very ghosts that haunted him. "What do we do?" I asked, my voice trembling as all hope threatened to be buried beneath the weight of the moment. He inhaled sharply, determination erupting in the depths of his darkening gaze as he faced the approaching figure. "We confront him," he declared, but I could see the flicker of uncertainty rooting him to the spot. Hope and danger danced before us, and as the enigmatic figure approached, a chilling revelation formed. Whatever existed between James and this person would change everything, potentially dragging us all back into the chaos we so desperately sought to escape. And in that moment, the shadows deepened. No longer were we simply fighting for Lily's safety, we were now inextricably intertwined in a web of past errors, present dangers, and the stark desperation of a future hanging by a thread. The figure advanced with an unsettling calmness, his expression a perfect mask of indifference that did little to ease the turmoil brewing in my heart. James's face contorted with a mixture of anger and betrayal as recognition washed over him. "River," he breathed, the name slipping from his lips as if it were a curse. The name alone echoed a lifetime of shared history and unspoken grudges. I had heard whispers of this man rumored to be one of the chief orchestrators of a criminal underbelly James had fought fiercely to distance himself from. The stakes had risen dramatically. "James," River replied coolly, hands tucked into the pockets of his tailored suit, exuding an air of confidence that set my teeth on edge. "I'd tell you it's good to see you, but we both know that would be a lie. Why are you here?" James's voice was low, each word laced with a tension that could snap at any moment. The resolve he had shown just moments ago seemed to falter, the weight of his past threatening to crush him. "I came to help, believe it or not," River said, his voice smooth like silk yet dripping with insincerity. "Lily's not just your daughter, she's family. And family needs protection." My heart raced, fear creeping in with each syllable. How could we trust him? But the urgency to keep Lily safe flickered through my mind like a guiding light. I glanced at James, searching for a reaction, a sign that he wouldn't let this man upend everything we fought for. "We don't need your help," I interjected, my voice firm even as uncertainty gnawed at me. River raised an eyebrow and took a step forward, and I felt instinctual warning bells ringing in my head, urging me to protect James. "You're in over your heads, both of you. The moment you decided to act, you placed a target on your backs." He paused, a sheepish grin creeping onto his face. And on Lily's, James's face hardened, a look of fury swirling within those deep, dark eyes. "You think I'd risk her safety by trusting you? What choice do you have?" River shot back, his tone suddenly serious. "You're being hunted. By someone who won't stop until they've gotten what they want. I can help you find out who that is and what their plan entails. It's not just about her, it's about you too." Each word echoed, stirring emotions long suppressed within James. I could see the struggle etched into his features as the fight within him rattled against the bars of the past. I turned my gaze to River, holding back my apprehension, only exposing it through hesitant vulnerability. "And why would you help us? What's your motivation?" "Because despite everything, I don't want to see you fail, James. We're bound by blood and mistakes, and we both know that sometimes, the only way to protect those we love is to embrace the darkness." His gaze was piercing, unraveling layers of fear and responsibility, laying bare vulnerabilities that felt impossibly fragile. Silence enveloped us like a thick fog, the shadows thickening with every second that stretched between our breaths. River moved closer, addressing James with unsettling familiarity. "Your mother came to me, James. She's worried sick about you, about Lily. If you don't want her to get hurt, you need to listen." Panic swirled wildly within me. The past echoed louder than the present. James's mother had always been a figure cloaked in secrets, and I could feel the tension stretch painfully taut at the mention of her name. "This isn't about my mother," James said tightly, turning his back on River, the weight of family ties suffocating him. "It's about Lily and keeping her safe." "I can offer you a way out," River pushed back, relentless. "But it requires a favor in return, a small favor to assure your daughter's safety." "What favor?" I asked, apprehension rising in my throat. The unease grew more potent, a storm brewing ominously on the horizon. A sly smile played on River's lips, an unsettling glint in his eyes. "You need to let me handle it my way. I can't promise it'll be clean. But I can promise you she'll be safe at the end of it." James's jaw clenched, an internal battle raging beneath the surface. I could feel the tumult within him. The path he was being offered twisted and turned into darkness, a darkness he had fought to escape, the very shadows he had promised to vanquish for the sake of his daughter. "Think about it," River urged and took a step back. "But I wouldn't wait too long. Time is not on your side." He turned to leave, his parting words hanging in the air like smoke. "You'll know where to find me." The air seemed to shift, heavy with unwelcome tension as River's figure faded from view. I turned to James, the storm of emotion reflected in his eyes, a mixture of rage, confusion, and indecision. "What do we do?" I whispered, searching for direction, a flicker of hope against the overwhelming dread settling around us. "We wait," he said finally, his voice barely above a murmur. Until we know for sure what moves we should make. I refused to risk Lily's safety on a whim. But deep down, I could see the fracture lines of hope splintering, as if the walls we had built were slowly closing in. With every passing second, I sensed the danger encroaching, strangling whatever hope we carried like a vice, and just as we breathed, the oppressive uncertainty weighed heavy as we turned to retreat back inside. A sudden crash echoed through the estate, resonating with the fury of thunder. The sound reverberated through the hall, echoing straight into our bones. James! I gasped, adrenaline awakening every sense within me as confusion ricocheted off the walls. The moment stretched, leaving only darkness and the heart-stopping sensation that whatever lay inside was now unleashed, shattering our fragile grasp on safety for good. The thud of something heavy crashing echoed in my ears like a war drum, punctuating the suffocating atmosphere thick with unease. My heart raced as I grabbed James's arm, a primal urge to protect him, to create a barrier against whatever darkness loomed just beyond the threshold of our sanctuary. "Stay close," he breathed, his eyes narrowing, instinctively shifting into a protective stance as we turned back toward the house. The soft glow of interior lights flickered, seemingly taunting our fear. Each step toward the door felt treacherous, as though we were crossing a tightrope above an abyss that threatened to swallow us whole. That we reached the threshold just as a figure emerged from the shadows, silhouetted against the doorway's light. The outline of a man stood ominously still, his posture betraying nothing but an unsettling calm. My breath caught. Why was he here? The fear ricocheted through me, amplifying James's tension. At that moment, I thought of Lily, our little girl. The innocence of her laughter and the way her eyes sparkled when she ran toward us flooded my mind like an antidote against the rising dread. "Where's Lily?" I blurted, instinctually casting my gaze for any sign of her. James's strong hand gripped my shoulder. "Inside." I told her to stay in her room and lock the door. His voice, filled with fierce determination, was a brittle shield against the unknown. The figure stepped forward, revealing a recognizable face that twisted into a semblance of a smile. It was Marcus, one of James's former associates. "Sorry to crash the party," he said, his voice laced with an unsettling nonchalance. "But we need to talk." I watched James's body tense, a wave of emotions swimming across his face: contempt, distrust, and something else that pinched my gut. "You shouldn't be here, Marcus. What do you want?" "A little chat about the past, and the future." He gestured vaguely, drawing our attention back toward the chaos we nearly managed to ignore. "I heard there was someone snooping around, something that could ruin your lives." "Look, if that's why you came crashing in here," James began, his tone sharp, but Marcus raised a hand to still him. "I'm not here to fight, James. I want to help. But we both know this mess has a way of hunting you down." The last three words hung between us, heavy with the lingering echoes of grievances and shared history that I felt James's tension only intensifying, his mind wrestling with the ghosts of his past. Desperation gripped me, a compelling need to anchor him amidst the tempest threatening to sweep us all away. "What do you know?" I asked, my voice steady despite the pounding in my chest. Marcus hesitated, and for a fleeting moment, I caught a glimpse of vulnerability in his eyes. "There are whispers. Someone close to you, someone you might not suspect, aiming to take everything away. And it involves Lily." A chill enveloped me, icy fingers creeping down my spine. "Don't you dare involve her in any of this," James replied, his voice low but edged with growing intensity. "Then we need to find out who it is before it's too late," Marcus pressed, an urgency spilling into his tone. "Trust me or not, but it's your choice here. Either you stay in this bubble of safety and let the storm hit, or you step out and face it together." "Together?" I echoed, my voice trembling as the reality of our precarious situation began to sink in. "You don't understand, Marcus. There's no together when mistrust hangs like a storm cloud threatening to break at any moment. And sometimes, mistrust is all we have to keep us alive," Marcus replied, his eyes locking onto James with an intensity that radiated fear and determination. Silence blanketed us like a heavy quilt. The amount of unspent emotions hung in the air, a volatile mix of pain and fear. I felt the truth like a knife at my throat. Trust was a fragile thing, and even the slightest provocation could shatter it. James rubbed the back of his neck, the signal I had come to recognize as a sign of his conflict. "What do you suggest?" he finally asked, his voice low, laced with resignation. The thought tore through my heart. Did he really believe that inviting yet another figure from his past into our lives was the answer? A flicker of hope ignited within me, a small ember dancing against the looming darkness. "Maybe we take this moment to regroup, draw strength from one another," I urged gently, locking eyes with him. "Whatever storm is on the horizon, we face it together. As a family." But Marcus's gaze darted toward the shadows, an urgency tinting his words. "I certainly wouldn't wait too long. Shadows are closing in. I'll help you model a plan, but we need to go now." Before I could voice my hesitations, the air shifted again, thickening as a sound shattered the tenuous calm. A chorus of distant sirens wailed, drawing closer until they pierced the layers of tension enveloping us. Panic surged anew, leaving my heart racing and my thoughts drowning in chaos. "Oh God," I whispered, worry seeping into my very bones. "Where's Lily?" "She's still safe," James assured me quickly, determination flooding his features. "For now, at least. But we have to keep it that way." And as we turned to bolt toward the room where our daughter lay, I couldn't shake off the feeling that the ground beneath us was beginning to crumble, threatening to consume everything we cherished. The shadows were indeed closing in, their grasp tightening around our fragile hope. Just as we reached the door, I felt a tug at my sleeve, a small, trembling hand. My eyes widened as I turned, and there stood Lily, her innocent gaze piercing through my heart. "Mommy?" she asked, her voice small but unwavering against the chaos surrounding us. In that moment, I understood with a sickening clarity, we weren't just fighting for ourselves anymore. We were battling for her future, entangled in a web of danger and shadows. And the question now loomed ominously: what price were we willing to pay to keep her safe? As the world collapsed around us, the haunting truth lingered in the air. We were sitting on a truth as fragile as spun glass, just waiting for the moment it would shatter. Lily's innocent face, framed by her golden curls, became my anchor while panic surged through my veins. I could feel the heaviness of my promise to protect her, heavy and unyielding like the night. "Mommy, what's wrong?" Her wide eyes searched mine for answers, as if sensing the storm brewing in our family. I knelt down, heart racing at the sight of her, buzzing with an instinctual urge to shield her at all costs. The sirens wailed outside, echoing the tumult of my emotions, a reminder that danger was not some abstract possibility, it was now our immediate reality. "Nothing is wrong, darling," I said, forcing a smile that I prayed would ease her worry. "We're just getting ready to go somewhere safe." But the fragility of that safe place felt like a hollow lie, cracking under the weight of unspoken truths. River's warnings echoed in my mind: someone was hunting us, and we needed all the strength we could muster to weather the storm. James crouched beside Lily, his presence a mix of fierce determination and concealed fear. "You're going to be okay, kiddo," he said gently, brushing a few stray curls behind her ear, his fatherly instincts awakening, radiating warmth even in the face of looming chaos. "I need you to trust me, all right? You're our top priority." Her small nod seemed to illuminate the room, sending a spark of resolve rolling through me. This child wasn't a burden, she was the reason behind every choice we now faced. And even if darkness clouded our tomorrow, I could not let her become a casualty in a war fought against invisible enemies. "Whatever happens, we will be a family," I whispered to her, wishing her to believe in the strength that resided in our bond. "No matter what challenges come, remember the love we share." Another thundering crash echoed through the house, and I cursed inwardly, instinctively glancing at the door where the sound reverberated from. The urgency of now pressed against me, but I couldn't let panic take hold. My daughter needed a calm hand to guide her through the tempest. "Where do we go?" Lily asked, her voice small yet determined, a flicker of courage completing the spark within my heart. James turned to me, eyes blazing with resolve. "There's a cellar beneath the kitchen. It's our best bet. If anyone comes in looking for us, they won't find us there." I swallowed hard, my throat constricting against the reality of our flight. "Let us move quickly then," I urged, guiding Lily toward the kitchen, her tiny fingers interlacing with mine like the lifeline she was. James remained close, a formidable wall of protective energy as he flanked us from behind, ever vigilant against whatever was lurking in the shadows. That we reached the kitchen, and I flung open the door leading to the cellar, my heart pounding in rhythm with the frantic uncertainty that clung to us like a shroud. It was dark inside, but I felt secure in the way James positioned himself to guard the entryway. Reluctantly, I nudged Lily ahead into the dimness, and as we slipped inside, I realized this was a womb of safety, albeit temporary. "Stay close to me," I instructed, my voice a cradle of comfort wrapped around my daughter, solid and unwavering against her quiet disposition. I clasped her hand tightly against the backdrop of overwhelming darkness, squinting to distinguish shapes as we ventured deeper into the subterranean refuge. James followed slowly, the shadows shifting around us, anchoring our fragile hope. There was a flicker of laughter echoing above, a stark reminder of the innocent life Lily had lived just hours before, how quickly that could be snatched away from her grasp. "Mommy, are we going to be all right?" Lily's voice broke through the silence, tinged with the purity of childhood naivety and undulating whispers of fear. "Yes, baby," I responded, holding back the tremor that yearned to break. "We're just waiting until we're safe. The stars will shine bright again, I promise." As we settled in a corner, huddled tightly to one another, I could feel Lily's breath hitching as she used my arm for comfort. It drove home the urgency that we must do everything to protect this tiny flicker of light against the looming dark. I peeked at James, whose eyes had a storm brewing beneath their surface, conflicting emotions intertwined with the desperation radiating through me. Then I remembered River's cryptic words, swirling in my mind. Could he be the peace we needed? The man teetering against the darkness of the past, capable of bringing us the truths we could not yet see? But before I could articulate my thoughts to James, the sound of footsteps stomped above us, and dread writhed in my stomach. My breath hitched painfully in my throat. "They're upstairs," I whispered, every nerve ending screaming. James flexed, bringing himself to full height. "I need to see what's happening," he murmured, conviction threading through his voice. He shifted toward the staircase leading upward, his resolve steady yet laced with trepidation. "Stay here, both of you." James the first began, needing to argue against his desire to protect us through self-sacrifice. But he cut me off, his gaze commanding. "I won't let anything happen to you or Lily. I need you to trust me." "Trust is the one thread we can't afford to lose right now," I whispered, deep down understanding the turmoil that twisted through him. He turned toward the stairs, the staircase consuming him in shadows until I could barely make him out in the darkness. I steadied myself, holding on tight to my daughter as a new wave of fear washed over me. "James!" I called quietly after him. Panic pushed through my heart like a surge. What if he was caught? Or worse, what if they found us down here? The sound of muffled voices drifted down the staircase, rising up with a familiarity that sent chills crawling down my spine, my worst fears unveiling. I clenched Lily's small hand tighter. "Remember our promise, Lily. Family always sticks together." The footsteps above began to reverberate with increasing tension until there was a sudden crashing sound accompanied by a shout. My heart plummeted, and I whispered fiercely, "Lily, tight squeeze. We have to." Before I could complete my thought, the door swung open with a violent creak. My instinct kicked in, propelling me to shield Lily behind me, positioning myself as a barrier against whatever demon was emerging from the shadows. But it wasn't a dark figure that stood silhouetted in the light, it was James, and he appeared breathless, eyes wild, coated in apprehension. "They know we're here. We have to move now." Without waiting for my response, he ushered us upward, hearts stealing us away to the depths of our escape. I quelled the uncertainties clouding my mind while a fierce determination ignited. The world around us blurred, and in that moment, I was no longer merely a mother shielding her child. I became a warrior, ready to face the chaos head-on. The walls echoed our frantic footsteps as we climbed, racing against uncertainty, the pulsating beat of survival pressing tightly against our hearts. With each step, I felt my connection with both James and Lily strengthen, intertwining fates. Whatever awaited us outside the door, I knew no matter how distorted the reality, we would confront it as a unified front. As we reached the surface, I could see the faint glow of light from the living space above. I looked at James, who stood resolutely beside me, ready to shield our flame against the towering inferno of danger. Together, hand in hand, we flung our heart and hope towards the door, ready to do everything in our power to break the cycle haunting our family. On 3, I breathed. Lily nodded, her grip on my hand unwavering, steadfast. James gave a determined nod, our eyes connecting briefly. This was the moment we had been waiting for, the culmination of all our trials. 1, 2, 3. With a swift motion, we burst into the sunlight, a flood of determination eclipsing every doubt. Time slowed, every heartbeat reverberating like thunder against the silence of the world that awaited us. And in that fleeting moment of chaos and defiance, I hoped that our love could outshine the darkness and render us invincible, ready to carve our own destiny, together. As the sun caressed our faces, I understood this battle was not about escape, but about claiming the lives forged from heartbreak and vulnerability, a chance to write a new ending. Together, we would embrace whatever came next, our love woven firmly into the fabric of our creation. No shadows could dim the westward glow of our fortitude. And I whispered softly through tearful resolve, no matter how far we fall, family will always rise.